Welcome! My name is georgemolho, and this is another episode of George the Giant Slayer. Strap in, because today I'm doing my first film review for the movie Dune. Now, for all of you who haven't seen the film, please be aware that there will be spoilers ahead. And for most of you, I'm sure you know the plot and the story of Dune. You've either read the books, or you've seen the sci-fi miniseries, or you've watched the original Lynch film. This 2021 version by director Denis Villeneuve sticks its landing by adhering closely to the author's canon. Now, just before I jump in, I have some great news about this film. Isn't that amazing when you hear that you have great news? Any day with good news is a day to celebrate. And I promise you that anytime you visit George the Giant Slayer, that I am doggedly determined, whether you're having a bad news day with dark and cloudy skies, to deliver you to something that you can hold on to, that can carry you through the day, the week, or the month. Because defeat is not an option in this cultural war. And Dune stands as testimony that we are slowly winning. Because in a time where political ideology has been perverting cinema, Dune is a refreshing breath of fresh air. For all of those who are going to see this film for a stale injection of woke Tinseltown politics, you will be sorely disappointed. This is old-fashioned Hollywood at its best. An outstanding story with an amazing cast, magnificent cinematography, and brilliant, vibrant visual effects and supersized models and sets that complement both our heroes and villains as they travel the known universe, discovering new worlds. Bottom line, this is a phenomenal film, a magnificent film, but not quite an epic. In my opinion, it falls just a little bit short of being an epic, but I'll explain that later in the episode. Now, I want you to remember, regardless of what anyone says, if you're going to go see this film and you walk out enjoying it and you think it's an epic or you think it's a miracle of filmmaking, better than Lord of the Rings, hold on to that, relish it, savor it, and enjoy it, and never, ever, ever let anyone spoil your good time. Villeneuve married a stellar cast with a timeless story and made a big movie for the big screen. So if you haven't seen Dune yet, go and see it in the cinema. And if you can, see it in IMAX. This is what IMAX was made for a film like Dune. And if you've already seen it at home on HBO Max, you can go watch it a second time in the theater. Trust me, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. And now that we've taken a taste of the appetizers, it's time to dig into the main course. Watch out, because spoilers are coming as I'm going to jump into the story. Paul Atreides, played by Timothée Chalamet. Every time I think of Timothée Chalamet, I remember the time that I was worried when I first heard his casting. I thought to myself, this former Homeland and Little Women actor does not have the gravitas to pull off this role. Well, within a few minutes of seeing him on screen, all my worries disappeared. He gave an exceptional, electrifying performance. Every eye in the cinema was glued to every one of his moves. It's like he produced his own gravity well. Timothée Chalamet played Paul Atreides, a man born onto a fated path that was outside of his control, a student who wanted to please his mentors and exceed his teachers' expectations, and a son and heir who wanted nothing more than to make his father proud. The leader of House Atreides, Duke Leto Atreides, who was played by Oscar Isaacs. Now, that caught me by surprise for a second. It really took me back. I've never been a big Oscar Isaacs fan. But his layered, powerful performance, it was subdued. There was this subdued strength that drew me in to watch him. I was completely blown away. And then on top of that, you had director Villeneuve. What did he do? He empowered Isaacs to play an engaged, caring, loving, strong father. In 2021, how many times have we seen fathers today where they're either dumb as a rock, where they can't pour piss out of a boot, and their kids are like Einsteins, or they're the polar opposite, where they're a villain who wants to burn the world down? But this time, we had a loving, caring father, a heroic figure The last time I saw that was this year in Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt, where he played a father willing to sacrifice for his child. So that's 2 times in a year. I think we're on a roll. From the moment Paul walked onto the screen, he was reacting to a destiny that was initially outside of his control, thrust into a world of religious politics and feudal Machiavellian games. He had nightly dreams that foreshadowed future events. These gifts, these skills, were honed by his mother, the Lady Jessica, a Bene Gesserit witch and a concubine to Duke Leto Atreides. She was played by the resilient Rebecca Ferguson, and this role fit her like a glove. The story starts rolling when Duke Leto Atreides is ordered by the Emperor to move his family to the most dangerous world in the universe, the spice-producing desert planet of Arrakis. Spice is the most valuable commodity in the universe. It is vital to space travel, and there is only one planet that produces it. Arrakis is a living death trap with danger around every corner. Whether you want to talk about its giant supersized worms the size of aircraft carriers or the native inhabitants, the tribal Fremen people who have been patiently biding their time waiting for an ancient prophecy to be fulfilled where a Messiah will come and free them from generations of oppression. As soon as the family settles in and assumes control of Arrakis, they are immediately confronted by sabotage, left by their old enemy, House Harkonnen, which is ruled by the Baron Harkonnen, played by none other than the indefatigable Stellan Skarsgård. Skarsgård is like the dark star of this story. He gives a magnetically mesmerizing performance as a villain. He's like a black hole that sucks in all light and all life, crushing it with his plotting, pragmatic performance. The Baron has only two goals: to retake Arrakis, which his house used to rule for almost a century, and to finally end his ancient enemy, House Atreides. In quick order, the planet is retaken and Atreides is crushed. Amidst a spectacle of blood, betrayal, bullets, gunfire, swords, hand-to-hand combat, and energy shields, House Harkonnen, aided by the Emperor's elite shock troops, the Sardaukar, crush House Atreides. All that seemingly survive is Lady Jessica and her son Paul, and the Baron dispatches them to the desert where he presumes they are dead. Sometime later, the Fremen discover Paul and his mother, and just about that time, Paul realizes that the planet has begun to change and that the spice in the air has begun to transform his consciousness. Whereas before he would have nightly dreams that would foretell the future, now he starts having waking daytime visions. And just as soon as his next chapter is about to begin with a Fremen, the movie abruptly ends. Now, for me, I could have sat and watched it in another hour. Some people complained about the pacing. I really didn't understand that. I found that the pacing for most of the film was like a slow burn leading up to an explosion of dialogue or an explosion of bombs and bullets. A brilliantly set piece. It felt that sometimes in some areas like Breaking Bad, it's a little pedantic, it's a little pragmatic, and then boom, it's like just about the second, right at the edge of your finger where you might get a little tired, it's 90% exhilaration. Phenomenal film. There are 4 more characters to round out the ensemble cast. We'll begin with Aquaman's Jason Momoa, who plays Duncan Idaho, a knight drawn from a time of chivalry, honor, nobility, and loyalty to his lord and masters until death. He's both a guide, mentor, and companion to Paul Atreides. Then we have former wrestler turned actor Dave Bautista of Guardians of the Galaxy fame portraying Raban, the nephew of Baron Harkonnen. This is a towering beast who takes sadistic pleasure in the pain and suffering and screeches of others. Now, what Villeneuve did masterfully here, and I know I've used that word a lot because it's just one of those films. What he did was he elevated Momoa's and Bautista's typical on-screen persona, transforming Bautista into a strong, silent, cold, smoldering volcano of fury, a person who is just sitting there at the razor's edge, waiting for something to happen so he could snap you into and laugh while doing it. And Momoa, what can one say about Jason Momoa? He is the embodiment of a walking, talking, I'm a badass. Villeneuve upgraded him with an honor code, some charm, a smile, and a sense of humor which wooed the audience. And we go to the next character, which is Chani, which is played by the rising star Zendaya. Now, in all transparency, I do not like Zendaya's performances. Not in the brief time she was in Dune or in any of the other characters that she's played. I just can't engage with her. She doesn't do it for me. I view her as more of a Hollywood PR prop department product than an actress. It's just not my cup of tea. I actually preferred the original Chani, which was played by Sean Young in David Lynch's film. She was a combination of beautiful, crazy, and strong, and a brilliant actress. Anyway, to Zendaya, her performance to me falls flat. I don't see any chemistry between her or Chalamet. Every time they're together, in the brief time that they are, it's like she sucks out all of the oxygen in the room and takes all the heat away. It's like she's a PC heat sink. And that's my take on Zendaya. The fourth character is not a living, breathing human being, but still integral, still important, and still vital. The visual effects. The visual effects here play a role. They paint a picture that makes all of these worlds in Dune come alive. Denis Villeneuve did something different with the visual effects. He allowed them to transfer the scope and the scale to the audience so they would have an appreciation of the true grandeur of Dune. I mean, whether you had the warriors from House Atreides running into a battle, a fight for their life, whether you had a backdrop of these gargantuan cargo ships and orthocopters. They're like those flying bird-looking helicopter machines, but they actually kind of glide. Or bombers and jet planes. When you saw the fighters and you saw these ships in the back and these hordes of war machines in the background, the humans looked like Lilliputian. They literally looked like sand fleas crawling on the ground. Or when you look at a sandworm off in the horizon and you see it submerged in the dunes, swimming towards you like a nuclear submarine hunting the deep oceans. And all of a sudden it comes towering out of the sand, rising up into the heavens like it was a titan from ancient Greece of old. Then he would compare and contrast that with another orthocopter flying around it and buzzing like a mosquito, or on the ground, a spice mining vehicle. When you first saw it a few minutes ago and some humans had walked up to it, it looked monumental. But next to this towering sandworm, it looked frail. It looked delicate. It almost looked like a child's Tonka toy. And those visual effects, they explode the imagination. They draw the audience in to believe this space fantasy extravaganza. What he did with the visual effects is a stroke of genius. Now, we finished our meals. It's time to clear all the dishes, find out what's broken, and throw it in the trash. What I found about the film that held me back from saying that this was epic, from feeling like I could say this is an epic film, were two things. First was when Warner Brothers was producing this film, they did not announce at the time, either in their ignorance or in their arrogance, that there would be a sequel coming. So what does that tell the audience? Dune, which was released last week, is chapter 1. It is a prologue. That means, unlike Lynch's 1984 film, which had compacted an entire book into 2 hours and 17 minutes, this Dune, Villeneuve's Dune, merely has pieces of it. It's like he's covered about 50% of the book. It's missing many chapters, many foundational stories, a lot of background information. So if I were an audience member and I were hearing for the first time, hey, there's only going to be one film, well, right off the bat, how can it be an epic? There's chunks of it missing. But today, on October 26th of 2021, it was announced that indeed the next Dune sequel has been greenlit and will be released in 2023. So that takes that right off the table. That's fantastic news. Second, before I come to that, I have to share with you how I view and evaluate films, how I enjoy them. I view movies as a living, breathing being. with a heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul. To me, the spirit of a film is the director. He holds the vision within him. It's like having a puzzle where he has to put all the pieces together, and they have to match the image in his mind that he sees and hears. So the director to me is the spirit of a film. The heart has always been the story, the foundation that the world is built around. Third, I would say, is the body. The body has always been something that I would represent with the actors, the co-stars, the set designers and wardrobe and costume makers, the talent. Fourth, I would say, is the mind, the cinematography and effects that slowly weave together this giant tapestry so that we could all enjoy. And we come to the last, but I consider one of the most important, the soul, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is something that is like a soul, ephemeral, non-physical, but it can both move you into a heart-pounding action scene or draw you out in a depression of tears with losing some loved one on the screen. It can draw you into a lover's kiss, lift you up to the heavens, or bring you crashing down. And Hans Zimmer's soundtrack just felt dead to me. I mean, it was discordant at times. It needed to be harmonious. It was harmonious at times. It needed to be thunderous and crashing. I just didn't know what he was doing. And I enjoy Hans Zimmer. I just cannot comprehend what he was doing. The way he did it, it might have been better not to play it at all, but then you would have killed the film. Think of it like this. Imagine Star Wars, the very first film, A New Hope, where you see Darth Vader, but you don't hear John Williams' Imperial March. That's pretty much the way I felt with this film, with Hans Zimmer's score. It was just dead to me. I didn't know if he was trying to exceed expectations and he went too far, or he was trying to subvert them and become the Rian Johnsons of soundtracks. So to me, the soundtrack, the soul of the film, is what stopped it from being an epic. Dune is a masterfully executed film, a masterclass in grand design, directing, scenery, scripting, wardrobe, costumes, sets, world building, and acting. The color palettes alone that they used to paint these unknown alien worlds were so vivid, so real, so lifelike. I thought I could go outside and look up to the sky and see Arrakis here and Caladan here, or Giddy Prime, or Saluka Secunda. Dune is a must-see film, and it awakens the child inside of you to dream and wonder anew. Please, go see the film. You will not regret it. Now, if you like the video, you know what to do. Smash that like button, share with your family, friends, and coworkers, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And remember, never bow down, never bend the knee, firmly defiant. Step up, stand tall, and get busy living your best life now. Always forward. He wanted to be a pilot? No, see, that doesn't work again. Okay. I realize that now. The spice, desert plant, the spice, nope. Start again. The planet of spice production. No, that's even, I don't like that. By the Emperor to move his family to the most dangerous world in the universe, the spice-producing desert planet of Arrakis. And then what does he do next? I don't like that. I'm going to do that again.